I was hoping it was that part that goes, 2 minutes later, but it totally wasn't. All right, a new NBC Wall Street Journal poll shows that 57% of GOP primary voters could not, would not, will not support Chris Christie. 51% can't support Senator Lindsey Graham, cracker, and 42%, they're already iffy on Jiffy Jeb Bush. This is sad right now. Does this mean the GOP faithful hates perceived moderates, or they really just dislike bad candidates? Well, let's ask our gentleman of the hour. We've got Andy Levy. He's the Red Eye co-host on the Fox News channel every night at 3 a.m. Eastern, midnight Pacific. And Michael Malice, one of the very finest ghostwriters I know. He's written his own book. It is called Dear Reader. I implore you to go out and smother your face in it immediately. So this is bad news, I think, for Chris Christie. Is this his death knell? Like, is his candidacy just done, Andy Levy?
Did his candidacy ever start? I don't think it did.
Yeah, with the weight loss surgery.
Yeah, no.
Like, once he did the snip and see, it was like, all right, it sounds like Donkey Kong.
There are 2 points here. First of all, I think it would be great if neither Hillary Clinton nor Jeb Bush were their party's nominees. At this point, I would actually support a constitutional amendment making it unlawful for any relatives or descendants of Bill Clinton or George H.W. Bush to ever run for president. I think that has to stop. But I don't see anything surprising about this poll. Jeb Bush is fairly moderate. The GOP base is fairly not moderate. Yeah. Chris Christie's fairly moderate. I think it's way too early to be making anything out of these polls other than it's business as usual. Yeah,
okay, but here was the shocker, Michael Malice, and I want you to shed some perspective on this. Donald Trump got a whopping 74% of respondents to say they would never support him as president. Does that surprise you?
It does not surprise me, and frankly, who can support Chris Christie? Your back will go out, am I right?
Doing squats.
I am. Thank you for noticing. The thing that people need to understand is, let's look at the data. Since 1968, every single time the Republicans have nominated a conservative, they've won. Yeah. Every single time they've nominated a moderate, they've lost. So this idea that if you move toward the center, you're going to get more of a vote share, that's not true. In fact, the Republicans who have been crazy for the last 2 years have been rewarded with their biggest House majority since the 1920s. So it's not always the case that going to the middle moderate is going to give you more votes.
The yucky middle. Now, what about, and this doesn't cover the people that Republicans actually like. How does someone like Rand Paul fare in Michael Malice's world where conservatives do better?
I'm not entirely sure I agree. Are you counting Richard Nixon as a conservative?
He certainly ran as a conservative, yes.
Yeah, he didn't really govern as a conservative.
Well, he ran as one.
Well, okay, I guess that's fair.
They never governed as them.
I don't know how Rand Paul plays into all of this. I suspect that his foreign policy views are not simpatico with the majority, with the base of the party, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I am more disturbed that 26% of Republicans said they could vote for Donald Trump. That figure is 26% too high.
Yeah, that's enough to stand Andy Levy's blood pressure up, and we don't want to do that. We want to talk more about Lindsey Graham, because he's nutty cuckoo birds. He spoke on Meet the Press about Hillary Clinton's email scandal. Finally, the voice of reason, and revealed his complete and utter lack of ability to have an email scandal. Here's why.
Do you have a private email address?
I don't email. No, you can have every email I've ever sent. I've never sent one.
That is shocking and terrifying. It's like, I do not have a car. I have a horse, and his name is Rick. Senator Graham is considering a presidential campaign. Wow, he's so pro-technology, he really should run. His opponents would be forced to sift through his official telegrams and carrier pigeon notes. Oh, I got one right here from Western Union. Lindsey Graham, I think the only place he'll do well is South Carolina, right?
Oh, he's not going to do well there either. They hate him there. They're thinking of primarying him. I don't think this is really a scandal, because the people who run the FAA have the oversight in the Senate. They've never flown a plane. The Agriculture Committee, they've never, planted a crop. And by this logic, Hillary Clinton shouldn't be commander-in-chief because she's not qualified to serve in the armed forces, right?
Okay, there were some leaps there that I didn't quite follow.
Well, they're saying that because he's never sent an email, he shouldn't be on this committee, and how outrageous is it that Lindsey Graham is having oversight over technology, and it's not outrageous in the slightest. No, he shouldn't, absolutely. If he doesn't even have, if he doesn't have the slightest understanding of something so simple as
no one does. Electronic mail.
You don't know how an email gets sent. You hit send, but you don't know what happens.
Well,
I don't know what happens.
No, it goes into those tubes that Ted Stevens told me about. Go
absolutely.
ahead, Andy.
My first thought was that maybe we've reached the point where not using email means you shouldn't be president. That was my first thought. I also was curious.
It's so hip.
Lindsey Graham is a colonel in the U.S. Air Force Reserve. He's a senior instructor at the Air Force's JAG school. How does he do that without sending email? I don't really get that. My second thought was, so what? I think he gets email and texts, and then he says he calls people back if he has something to say.
How annoying is that, having a conversation with Lindsey Graham every time he texts you?
Absolutely. But so that was my second thought, was no big deal. And then my third thought was, well, hold on. This means there's no written record of his communications. And while that's convenient for him, it's not so convenient for the people. So I don't know. Maybe he should just not be president.
Well, I think this is...
I think that's a good one, because I think his first order of business is just bombing the entire Middle East. Like he's going to put Slim Pickens on every single bomb to ride him right into the dirt. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kennedy.
You lighten my night and brighten my days.